Hello and welcome back to my channel name, and today we're breaking down the rapidly changing situation between the United States and Iran, including diplomacy, sanctions, and major military escalation. 1. A sudden escalation, US plus Israel strike Iran. Just hours ago, the US and Israel launched coordinated military strikes on Iran, targeting Iranian government, military, and nuclear sites. The operation, dubbed Operation Lion's Roar, marked one of the most significant military escalations in the Middle East in years. Explosions have been reported in Tehran and other Iranian cities. Iran's Revolutionary Guard fired missiles at US bases in the Gulf, including near Bahrain, and at Israel in retaliation. There are reported civilian casualties, including a deadly strike on a girls' school in Iran. This escalation has turned a tense diplomatic crisis into active combat operations. 2. What led to this? Diplomacy and failed talks. Before this military escalation, the US and Iran were engaged in indirect nuclear negotiations mediated by Oman and held in places like Geneva. Both sides made significant progress in talks earlier this week, but no deal was secured. Iran insisted on its right to enrich uranium, while the US demanded wider concessions, including limits on missiles and sanctions relief. Some developments before the escalation included Iran agreeing, according to Oman, to avoid having nuclear material that could be used for a bomb, but with important caveats. The US designating Iran a state sponsor of wrongful detention, increasing diplomatic pressure. However, unequal demands and unresolved core issues undermined these negotiations and set the stage for current tensions. 3. Sanctions and economic pressure. Even before strikes, the US ramped up economic pressure on Tehran, expanding sanctions targeting Iranian oil exports and entities linked to weapons and missile programs. These sanctions were intended to squeeze Iran's economy and curb its nuclear and weapons ambitions, but they also hardened Tehran's negotiating stance. 4. Regional and global impact. Iran has shifted to retaliatory military strikes across the Gulf region, with reported attacks on US assets in several countries. Major Gulf states hosting US forces, like Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and the UAE, experienced missile strikes. The situation is raising fears of wider regional war, potentially threatening global oil supplies through the Strait of Hormuz. Whether a broader conflict erupts, or whether diplomatic routes can still be restored, remains uncertain. 5. What world leaders are saying. US President Donald Trump framed the operation as an effort to eliminate an imminent threat from Iran's nuclear and missile programs and called on Iranian citizens to push for regime change. Iranian officials condemned the strikes, calling them an act of war and vowed relentless retaliation. Where it stands right now. Here's the short version of what's happening today. Diplomacy was underway, but failed to prevent escalation. The US and Israel have launched major strikes on Iran. Iran has fought back with missile attacks on US and allied assets. Regional instability is rising, and the world is watching closely. Stay tuned. If you want daily updates, click subscribe, turn on notifications, and let us know what questions you have in the comments.